the mobile session that we had with Harley this morning. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nikki Wells. I work with Redmayne, and I work on the product management team for mCase, and I also lead the customer success team. So I work with, if you met Tom yesterday, Tom is my manager. I work with Heather, and I absolutely love what I do. Today's topic of discussion is going to be the roadmap. And so we're going to talk about how mCase is growing, some of the features that we're going to be introducing in the upcoming months, and things to look forward to. So with that, we're going to start with a trip down memory lane. So I know a lot of you are new to mCase, but there are a lot of you that are not new to mCase. You've kind of been here since the beginning, the very beginning, and close to the beginning. And so when I started at Redmayne a couple of years ago, we were on mCase version 4 already. And who of you, show of hands, remembers this layout of mCase? So this is what mCase looked like when I joined Redmayne. Our logo was a different color. We had the square. We had different colors for our icons. Moving on to version 5 of mCase, this is probably something that you are most familiar with because this is the version of mCase that we're currently on. You're probably a little more familiar with this look and feel. Now, obviously, your icons are going to be different. Your banner at the top is going to be different. Well, that's really loud. So, but it's just, I like to look back to see how we've evolved, because sometimes it's really, really easy to get caught up in the tiny little details of trying to perfect something now, and we just need to take a step back and see how we're growing and see where we're going in the future. Now, we're not a huge corporation. Redmayne started off as a really small company, a very family-focused company. The original company started off with 10 people 21 years ago, and we've grown quite a bit, but we've really kept that family feel, that small company feel. We never want to become a corporation. We never want to, build something, sell it, take your money, and walk away. This is your product. This is your product. I'm going to say that a third time. This is your product. And all of the features and everything that we've built has been based on your feedback and learning how you're using it and learning how it works for you and how it doesn't work for you. Because there's always going to be both of those scenarios. And so a lot of our design and features that we introduced have been because of feedback. And so I welcome you, and I invite you, and I beg you, please reach out to us. Not just when you have problems. You are always welcome to reach out, and we will sort out your problems. But we want to hear your ideas. We want to hear and learn how you're using it. And we want to hear, your vision for where you want to take it. Because then we have a team of designers, we have subject matter experts, we have everybody. We take each and every one of your suggestions, every single one of your suggestions, and we sit around a table and we talk about how we can integrate that. Is that the best way to do it? What problem are we trying to solve for you? So please, it's really, really important to communicate, and we, like I said, we welcome that. So with that, I'm going to invite my esteemed colleague Pollock. Everybody, if not all of you, will be very familiar with Pollock, and she's going to talk about how we work with you for some design.
Some issues here. Hi everybody. I don't think I need to introduce myself because everybody knows me here. I know everybody in the room here. I've been everywhere, so I really love you all. So Nikki asked me yesterday if I could present about the work that we did with our communities, and I'm like, a little notice would be helpful. But then I was like, wait a minute, Pollock, these are your people. You're my second family. Even if I say something, you'll forgive me. Okay, so we're gonna get going here. So when I think about mCase, when I joined Redmayne, we were on version 3. So I remember working with Keanu, Cubo, they're all on version 3, and I was like, okay, this is our baby. So I always used to call mCase our baby. But then I'm like, no, it's not a baby anymore. It's a child, now it's a teen, and we are going to be an mCase adult next year. We have grown so much, and thanks to all of you, really appreciate it. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we have worked with all of our communities and getting your feedback around how we designed mCase to fit your culture. Make sure that we indigenize mCase, I'm not sure if that's a word, but indigenize mCase. You know, your icons are there, the sun and the moon and the clouds and the lightning, the feathers, everything is there. So what we did here, so I'm gonna skip to this slide here. AMO, I'm not gonna try to pronounce the third word here. See, I managed to pronounce all the Saskatchewan agencies, then this one I'm like, oh my God, I need to tag team with a Cree person here. So AMO, unfortunately, they couldn't join us this week. AMO is also known by Louis Bull Tribe. They are an agency in Alberta that we're currently working with. So what we are doing with them is, of course, building mCase for prevention and protection services, but at the same time, AMO has developed their own AMO law based on Bill C-92. So we are redesigning mCase to meet that law, to meet the needs, and to meet the new modules that they have come up with. So in order to do that, when we were in the design sessions with AMO, they were like, well, we don't want those old crappy icons. We don't really like those. We don't want those plain colors. We want more vibrant colors. I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do. So here's their homepage. You can see up at the top, the banner, they wanted their pictures of the former chiefs. And then we worked with them to pick each of these icons. So as you can see, each of these icons, they represent First Nation cultures, you know, the bear claws there, the leaves, the fire, the sun and moon. So it is indigenized. And we picked these colors based on the banner so it looks good. And I didn't do any of this. Thanks to Shanta and Sarah, they are creative. So if you need your system, you know, to look like this, just find the closest Redmayner in the room and we'll take the agency name and we'll help you with that. All right? So following on this approach, we have other agencies. So this one is in Alberta. I'm going to move on to New Brunswick now. Kingsclear Child and Family Services in New Brunswick. So we did the same thing there, but they had a painter in their agency who actually had paintings in the office. So we're like, when we were in the design section, we're like, what's behind you? That might be a good thing for your banner. So we got those pictures and put it here, and then we indigenized this as well. All right, so moving on to the next one in Ontario, that's Nijansinalik Child and Family Services. And we wanted to emphasize the importance of the turtle shell concept that they're working with. So you can see the turtle up at the top of the banner and some pictures at the top. And they didn't want vibrant colors. They're kind of like me. I'm like, oh my God, I don't like those colors. I want something lighter. So that's where we went with. So that's Ontario. Moving on to Saskatchewan. So you met Karen and the other ladies from Sister Shelters of Saskatchewan yesterday. So here is their system. And then moving on to Manitoba, that's the Métis Authority Michipkashkita, I hope I said that right, MK. And that's their system. So I know some of our old friends that I worked with in the early years, they may not have these icons and colors. So I strongly encourage everyone to reach out to me or Shanta or Sarah or Sue, anyone that you find here closer to you, any Redmayner. We'll work with you to make sure that we make your system look good because we have grown. And we want to reflect that in the solution so that, you know, we have your culture in there. With that, thank you everybody. I'm gonna pass on to Nikki. She's gonna talk about how mCase has moved from baby to child to teen, and now we'll be moving to an adult. Thank you.
Thank you, Falak. All right, so I'm going to talk about some of our more recent releases. So if you were in the mobile session, Harley mentioned that he just got, Touchwood just got version 5.5 of mCase. I think we're at about a 50% ratio. I think half of you have 5.5, and you will be hearing from me, if you don't have it yet, by the end of the month, we'll be rolling 5.5 out to you. So Q3 2021. So I'm just going to point out a couple of the features in 5.5. And the first thing is updating the 360-degree viewer to be a little easier. So I'm going to show you the next picture and just give credit to Charity for sharing this with us. We have this printed out on our cubicles, just to remind us of how we can't assume how people are going to be using the system. We need to understand how people are going to be using the system, and this is where the feedback comes in really handy. So how many of you are familiar with a 360-degree viewer looking like this? Yes. So we hired a designer. He is a graphic designer, and he's really good with design, and so he started to look at mCase in general to make it more user-friendly, to make it more usable, and to try and circumvent this kind of situation from happening. And so the improvements in the 360-degree viewer is, if you can see my cursor over here, instead of having all of those little nodes or the little bubbles around the 360-degree viewer, as soon as we get to 10 records, we found that 10 bubbles looks neat. Anything over and above 10 bubbles starts to kind of overlap and become non-readable. So if there's more than 10 bubbles, you can see here that this record has 10 aliases. We have introduced this stacking feature. So we can see a bubble, but we can see behind it that there's these shadows, there's a stack of information. And if we scroll down on that page, we then have a list of all 10 of those records. So they're no longer represented as bubbles, but we can click on that and then it will focus in on that. The next one I'm very excited about. We get a lot of calls from people, we get a lot of emails from people, and a lot of discussion with you guys. And a huge problem for all systems, but for social work in general, is duplicate files. And so we've tried a couple of things. We're putting preventative measures up front. We're improving our search capabilities. We're forcing people to search on records. We've introduced these sound decks, so if the spelling wasn't 100% correct, it's still going to find matches. That's on the prevention side to try and mitigate having these duplicate records. But the one thing that we were missing in mCase was the ability to merge duplicates. And so you guys were relying on us to go and go into the database directly and kind of splice everything together. And we now have the ability in version 5.5 to merge records. So this is it's configurable, and so you can configure which files you want to be able to merge, so persons or cases, or wherever you're finding your duplicates. It's role-based, and so not everybody will have security to be able to do mergers, so you guys can kind of identify who would be the most relevant people to do that. But the thing that I'm most excited about is it's a wizard flow. And that means that you don't have to understand, IT, you don't have to understand programming, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be able to understand what's going on. It's going to guide you through one step at a time. So this is what the merged wizard looks like. So in this scenario, I have it on our persons file, and one of the menu items would be merged. So where you see save, cancel, PDF, there's a new button called Merge, and if you click on that, it will come up with this little pop-up, and you can see at the top here that it has these 5 steps. We try to make it very obvious which step you're on, so you can see here above the identify we're on step number 105. This is highlighted in blue over here. So I'm on this Rebecca's Smith record. It's going to ask me, is this the primary record? Is this the record you want to keep? Or is this the duplicate record? Is this the one we want to merge into? So I have the ability to select that over here, and then I would click on the next button. Next step, you can see at the top here, it's highlighted in blue, step 205. Now I'm going to search for the duplicate record, right? So I'm going to type in a name, it's going to recognize various spellings of that name, and I can find my duplicated file. Step number 3, and this is the step that I'm most excited about, absolutely. This beats any other systems mergers, if you've ever had a merge system to look at. It will then give you, in this column over here that's kind of highlighted in light blue, it will give you a list of all of the fields and their values from the primary record. And then in this column on the right-hand side, it's going to give you the equivalent fields and their values, and so you can compare. So you can see here, I'm picking and choosing between. I know that Rebecca's last name is Smith. This is her married last name. Perhaps she was Brown as her maiden name. But this first name spelling is really off. And so I know that the duplicate spelling is actually the correct spelling. So I can pick and choose the correct values. I don't have slides over and above this one, but you can see here that step number 4 is to merge the associated records. And so what the associated records, I think a lot of you refer to them as the subpods, right? So that's your contact logs, it's your assessments, it's all of the records that are associated. We also have the ability to merge those into this main record as well. So you have the option to either do that or to not do that. And then the last step is confirmation. And so we know that merging is really important, and we need to pay attention to the fields that we're selecting so that we get a very accurate file. And the very last step is kind of you have to type in a phrase. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? If you are, then type in this phrase so that you don't make any mistakes and save something that you didn't intend. Very excited about the merge. And I'm sure I'm going to be getting a lot of calls about, hey, let's get into this, let's do this. All right, so the next, Charity's first in line. All right, so the next feature I want to speak to you about, I think we're encouraging all of our clients to nominate at least one person within your organization or your agency to nominate an organization administrator, and this puts the power back to you to be able to maintain your users, to keep your user base up to date, to help people reset passwords if that's what you need, to deactivate somebody if they're going on maternity leave and then reactivate them when they're coming back to work again. Just empowering you to do that and not having to rely on us to maintain that. But one of the other features that comes with that in version 5.5 is utilization dashboards. And so this is an overall view of how mCase is being used within your agency. It's kind of small text, so I'll just read to you what's going on over here. So this is going to tell you, you can run this by time period. So you can run it for the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever period you want to measure. And it's going to show you transaction volume. Now, I was sitting with Touchwood yesterday. I was showing Touchwood this feature, giving them a bit of a live demo, and we saw a spike in usage in one of the months. And they told me that, well, you know what, we're actually preparing for a file review, so we're getting all of our affairs in order. We're making a lot of updates, and we could see that represented in a chart. Over here, this is the top users by number of transactions, so you can see who's performing the volume of transactions, and this is a really good area to help you identify training needs, perhaps, and just to see who's doing what and where. This chart over here is the type of transactions, and so those are we doing reminders? Are we capturing case notes? How many SDM assessments are we capturing? So that's going to give you a list of all of that, and then it's going to tell you whether we're doing creating records, updating records, deleting records over here. This is also filterable, so it's dynamic. So if I had to say, wow, this, my eyes are terrible, but let's say that this was July, like, wow, what happened in July? If I clicked on that, it would then change all of the other charts to say, okay, in July, now my top users has switched, because now I can see who performed the most transactions in July. I can see what those transactions were against. We were catching up on SDM, for example. So I think it's a very powerful tool as well, so that you can see how mCase is being utilized in your organization, and where you can encourage people to utilize it more. Now I'm going to be talking about mCase 5.6. So that's going to be officially released within the next month or so, as we'll be rolling it out to you guys before the end of the year. But there's quite a few exciting features in there as well. The first one that I wanted to highlight is genograms on the web. So we really want to do away with paper genograms, with uploading files, and we have created this dynamic genogram that gets generated in mCase from all the relationships that you're defining. So here, you know what a genogram looks like, but here's a genogram here. It's defined all of those relationships. If we right-click, or whether we're on the mobile or web, this is going to be available, but if we right-click or we hold down a person's picture, it will bring you a menu up. And you can now add a new relationship. If you've just found out that Mary has a new husband or a new boyfriend that's moved into the house, you can add that relationship immediately on the screen, and then it will update throughout the system, and it will bring all of the new boyfriend's relationships into it, and so it will build that genogram dynamically. The next area that I wanted to talk about, and we had some questions about security in mCase. We're constantly looking at security and tightening up where we can, and we're always assessing any kind of vulnerability that we have in the system. We have security type certifications. With every time that we do a new release, we send our code off to independent auditing firms that go through, and they give us a score, and in order to keep our certification we have to score above a certain amount, and we're secure. But in addition to that stuff that's going on in the background, we've increased our security on the front side as well. So one of the things that we've done there is we've increased password complexity. And so I just want to point out, your passwords as they are now are not going to change when you do the upgrade, so you can keep on using that. But if you want to reset your password, or you're a new user coming in and you're going to create a new password, there's new requirements. So now it has to be at least 8 characters, 1 capital letter, 1 number, and 1 special character in there. So we're just increasing or decreasing the ability for people to guess passwords and get into your sensitive files. We've also introduced new role-based security. So depending on your role, you can define who has access to the audit wall or the activity wall. And so if you guys are familiar with the activity wall, that's that little icon that we click on, and it tells us who changed what, when did they change it. It gives you all of the activity on a file. A request came from some of our clients that they wanted to restrict that information to only certain roles, to supervisors and managers. And so now we've introduced that. So by default, everybody will be able to see it, but we can, uncheck those the roles that shouldn't have access to that, and so that's a new feature. And then the last feature in terms of security and auditing is when on the mobile device, when we share, so we spoke about sharing, a safety plan or something with a supervisor or a client. That is now getting tracked on the activity wall as well, so we can see when a file was shared and who it was shared with and all that information there. All right, so mCase version 6. This is our next major release, which is coming in the first quarter of 2022, which sounds like a long time in the future, but it's actually only a couple of months away, it's really scary. But the biggest focus of version 6 is on design and usability, and this is where we've taken a lot of your suggestions and heard you. We've listened to you, we've heard you, and we've tried to incorporate that feedback into a better look and feel in mCase. So the one thing that we've done is we've tried to make it more like a Google-like experience, right? Everybody knows Google. The whole world knows Google, and we know how easy it is to use their products. And so we're trying to become, we don't want to be Google because we're better than Google, but we want to have that intuition like they do. And one of the places that we've done that is with our mapping capabilities. And so based on feedback, we know it's great that we have Google Maps integration, but one thing that you already have, that if you have a list of contacts, for example, with addresses that you need to go to, you have the ability to check multiple addresses and click on a button that says map this, and it will give you the route. And then you can send that to your phone and drive off for your contacts for the day. So we do have that ability in mCase already. But what we heard from our clients is that that's all good and well, but how do we get reimbursed for that? How do we capture the total mileage, right? That's a problem that many people face, is sometimes we need to reimburse people for their travel, and we didn't have anything to kind of seamlessly integrate that. And so what we've introduced in version 5.6 is it 5.6? Excuse me while I go back to 2 slides. Version 6, thank you. We're getting 5.6 by the end of this year. I'm saying it and my brain's like, no, something doesn't sound right here. Okay, so this little screen in the background over here is is the route calculator, and that's where it's going to give you each segment of the route for the addresses that you've chosen. And then you'll see this new button at the bottom here, and this says create record. And what that's going to do, if you click on that, it's going to create a new record in a new file called travel expenses. It doesn't have to be just for travel or expensive, but it's going to create this new record that's going to calculate the total mileage that route incurred. It's also going to have calculated the most efficient route, and not just the order that you want to go, but you can switch that depending on your preference. You then have the ability to upload any other expenses related to that travel. So perhaps a gas receipt, you can just take an image with your phone, it will upload that, and then kind of consolidate this entire travel expense, and then you can submit that to whomever you need to submit it for approval, and then ultimately reimbursement. All right, so we saw the evolution of the mCase homepage. We kind of went from the square, more muted colors to the more modern circles and shadows and all the bright colors that Pollock showed us, to indigenize and using the vibrancy. Version 6 is going to give you a new experience when it comes to the homepage. So I'm going to tell you about it first, and then I'm going to play you a little video, and hopefully I can keep up with the video just to explain what's happening. But essentially what we're doing is our homepage, your homepage, is now becoming a productivity dashboard. So it's not just going to be something with a bunch of icons that you click on to navigate to your files. It's going to be something that you can use that has tools that help you be more productive in your job, and it gives you the information that you need at a much earlier stage with less clicks, less typing. Who here, raise of hands, who uses to-dos? Who follows their to-dos, right? So helpful, you know, you need to complete this safety assessment, all that kind of stuff. We're now going to be bringing the to-dos to your homepage, so you can see them. You can see them right there and then without actually going into an investigation or a case. They're going to be all there, and you can prioritize them. And so that's a way that you can track that type of workload. We're introducing a new feature called Starred Records. I have a weird accent, I know. I'm from South Africa originally. I want to say starred record, but it's starred. I think it's starred. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, that's what I'm trying to say. And so these are records, these are files that you're particularly interested in that have special significance to you at that time. And so if you know that this week, you're going to be looking at, your top 10 cases that you're going to be working with this week, you can kind of just click on the little star. We'll make it bright yellow, I think we're going with. That's a star color, I think. And then those records will just appear, the records, not the icons for the files, but the actual records will have hyperlinks on the first page. And then, if you've completed your contacts or, you've completed your work for that week or that month, and that case is no longer as high a priority for you, you can unstar it and it won't come up on the front. So that's a way just for you to be able to quickly access the most important files in the system without having to search and click, and which I think is awesome. Another thing that came to us from our clients, all of this came to us from you, just so you know. But one of the big things that, or one of the, we'll start again. One of the big feedbacks that we got from our clients is, when we're working with families and we're working with children, birthdays are always really important, and keeping track of those birthdays. And so we've introduced a widget, fancy name for a little space on our homepage, that will tell you whose birthdays are coming up, and it will give you the ability to wish that child or wish that family happy birthday. And then the last thing that we've introduced on the homepage, based on your feedback, is the ability to create an associated record without having to click through multiple screens. And so whatever the most commonly captured activities, let's say contact logs, right? Contact logs is the meat and bones of your case files, because you need to track all of that contact. That's going to be able to be created from the homepage directly, and I'll show you how we do that in a minute. We've also revamped the way that we view records. Now, you're not going to notice huge changes here. It's not as big an overhaul as the homepage, but we're just making the ability to view records and the data in there more accessible. And so we've changed the type of font that we use to be more accessible for people like me that have terrible eyesight. It's a lot more crisper and clearer. We're using colors to show you where you are. We're using shadows to show you where your mouse is hovering. So it just gives you more control and understanding of where you are on a screen. And I'll show you that in a minute too. All right, so this is, I wasn't sure whether to show you this live or to show you through a little video. I went with the latter choice, so let's see if that works out for me. So I'm going to play this video. I think this is, let's see. Yes, it's playing. okay, I better start speaking, otherwise it's going to catch up with me. So this is going to be the new homepage. So when you log in, this is what you're going to be able to see. You can see here that we've personalized it. So we're saying, welcome back, Ben. Workspaces, I'm clicking on a drop down. So these are all your icons. They're still going to be available to you. They're still going to have your colors. But now they're going to be accessible from any page that you're on. So you can just jump from investigations to cases from the page that you're on. This, I'm going to actually pause here. How do I pause? Hold on, I want to pause this. Give me 1 second. Because this is important. It's okay. I'll just start it again, that's okay. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to just speak to you quickly, and then I'm going to bring it up again so you can see it. This is something that I'm most, out of everything that I've spoken about today, out of all the feedback that we've gotten from everybody, this is the thing that I'm most excited about. I mentioned a Google-like experience, and we're bringing that experience into mCase by introducing a Google-like search. So what does that mean? That means that on the top of every screen that you're on, there's going to be a search bar. And you're going to start typing somebody's name, or a file name, or an address, whatever you want to type. And as you start typing, you're going to start seeing results everywhere in the system, right? So if we want to look for Sarah Jones's file, her investigation file, we no longer have to go to investigations to look there. We can still go to investigations if we know it's there, but if we just start typing on this top of the menu bar, it's going to tell me, I know about a Sarah Rogers. Here's the investigation. Here's also all her contact notes. Here's where she was an alleged victim. Here she was a participant, but she was the alleged offender. It's going to give you every single hit in the database where we know about Sarah Rogers. And then you'll be able to see that and then to navigate to that record directly there. Yeah. For me, that's just, it's been a long time coming, and we've heard you, and I think that this is going to be one of those prevention measures that I spoke about in the beginning, where we're going to start to eliminate those duplicate files, because we're going to know everything about this person in the system. All right, I'm going to start up my video again. Let's see how that works out. All right. Do-do-do-do. Getting there. I've been through a lot already, wow. You guys are very patient, and I appreciate your patience and attention. Alrighty, here we are. So I think it's playing. Yes, it's playing. All right. So if we scroll down, we can see what it's going to look like overall. I'm going to show you the workspaces again. So accessing it from wherever you are in the system, keeping your color scheme, keeping your chosen icons. Our search bar at the top, this is what it's going to look like. I'm not going to type anything in. This is just a prototype that I'm showing you right now. So this is not in a working version of mCase, but this is our design team prototype. This long line across here is the to-dos that I was talking about, and by dragging and dropping, you can change the position of those to-dos so that you have the ability to prioritize those. The next thing is creating the descendant records. So you will identify the most commonly performed task, capturing contact logs, for example. You're going to say, I want to add a new contact log. So by clicking on this button, it's going to say, where do you want to add the contact log? And it will give you the options of wherever contact logs has been associated to. So that was persons, intakes, and investigations. Here's the starred records on the right-hand side. So those are all the records that I starred, and these were important to me. hyperlinks. I just click on that, it will take me directly to my record. We have our little birthday list over here, and just by clicking on that button over there, you'll be able to send an email or a text message just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, happy birthday, have a great day. And then here on the bottom right, we have all the recent activities. So if you weren't sure kind of where you left off on Friday, it's been a good weekend, then you can kind of click on that and it will tell you. You're also able to customize these little widgets. So if to-dos don't apply to you and it's just cluttering up, you just uncheck that and it will get rid of that. You can change the position of where you want those little icons to sit. So if birthdays are really important to you, you can move that to the very top of your homepage and customize it to your preference. Then I'm going to navigate here. This is the new record view. So I clicked on my starred record, and you can see it looks a little cleaner. It's junk content in here, so don't worry about that right now. But we're changing the color on the left-hand side to be white, and does anybody use dark mode in any other application? So you can switch to have like a dark background with the light text. A lot of people love that, and so we're going to be able to bring that into mCase, and that's why we've changed that so we can do dark mode. We've also moved our icons for our associated records all to the left-hand side, so you still have the ability to search, add, edit on the left. And then this was direct feedback from you guys as well. The new menu action menu that we introduced with the 3 little dots, you have to click on that to do whatever you want to do, save, edit. The feedback was we don't like it. It's extra clicks. We don't want the extra clicks. We don't have time for extra clicks. So we said, we hear you, we get it. And we've taken the most commonly save, edit, cancel, and we're putting those, so it's just a single click. And then anything else we're putting in the 3 dots. So that would be your PDF, it would be your submit for approval, like all of those extra buttons we're putting on the side there. So that's the new homepage. What do we think? Our product team and our design team has been working incredibly hard on this, and like I say, there's been so many skull sessions around this and talking and thinking and looking at feedback, and our client success team communicates, like I say, I mean, it sounds like we're in a different place, but we're all sit in the same area, and I always joke that we're a mere paperball throw away from the engineers that write the code. And I know that by experience. So, you know, they value the feedback, we value the feedback, we communicate everything to them. And so, with that, I want to open it up to any questions that anybody has. Not you, Charity. I'm just kidding. Yes, they're at the back. Yeah, we absolutely do have that, and so we manage security on many different levels within the application. We also manage it on many different levels without on the outside of the application. But that's what I was talking about, the certifications and stuff. But within the application, we have what we call I'm blanking out now. What is where's the red link? What's our org, like our org admin organization? Yeah, so we have location-based security. The Métis Authority, they use this. So they have one version of mCase, and the 2 different agencies do not view each other's data. And so we're able to define that based on their location. We also have role-based security. And so if you're a supervisor, you can be allocated higher privileges than a worker. If you're only working on HR, you perhaps don't need to see any of the investigations or anything like that. And so we allocate certain roles, or we have groupings of roles, and then we're able to allocate those roles to each of the types of files. We also have the ability to restrict files. And so if there's a file that needs to be restricted, we have the ability to restrict that on multiple different levels as well. So we can restrict it to certain users only. We can restrict a file to certain roles. And we can restrict a file to certain organization locations as well. And then we have another layer of restriction, which is, we call it restriction level. And so we have more secure levels and less secure levels. And so that's kind of good in training environments where you want, a trainer should be able to not see everything, but somebody else wouldn't. So we really tackle it on many different levels. We also then go into, we call them data lists, but they're really just the file structure of the screen that you're looking at, or the file that you're looking at. And then based on role, we can allocate what level of security. So are you even allowed to view this type of record, right? Are you only allowed to view this type of record but not edit? Perhaps there's certain roles that are allowed to add but not edit. Perhaps there are certain roles that can add and edit. Perhaps there are certain roles that are allowed to delete, but no other roles can delete. And so we really have, we have about 7, I think it is, Pollock, right? We have 7 different, so it's view, add, edit, delete, merge, clone. So we can allocate that to clone and then move a file to another file. And each of those levels are defined by role as well. So there's many different layers of security and controlling who can do what. Does that answer your question? Good. Any other questions? All right. Well, then we will wrap it up. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I know I spoke for a lot, and that's a lot of information.